Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics from the state capitol in Jefferson City. We are joined by the 48th Treasurer of the great state of Missouri, Vivek Malek. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott.
I have to say, I did not know your story prior to you becoming state treasurer. You have one of the most amazing stories of anybody I've ever seen in politics. Stop me when I'm wrong. You came to this country with $300 in your pocket. It's the kindness of some folks like a Mary Casson that everybody in Southeast Missouri would know. Well, you tell the story. How you came here and decided you want to get involved in public service.
Well, Scott, I would say that my story is no different than or unusual than any immigrant who has stepped into this country. When I came from a country which was a developing country, so resources were scarce. Mm-hmm. Education has been the key to uplift yourself. So my parents focused, and they were on the farm. Not to say it in a different way that doing farming or anything is bad, but for a person living in a country like India, having small land holdings, you can be impoverished if you are just relying on farming. Mm-hmm. So my parents worked very hard, educated themselves, and gave us a better future. And they made sure that we stay in school and we get the education we need. So my parents helped me get through college, get through law school, and then I wanted to continue my education. But again, resources were scarce. And this is a funny thing, I must tell you. So I got a good, decent GMAT score, but I didn't have the money to go to a good school, a good top 50 school, I would say. Mm-hmm. Not in Harvard or Yale, but money was not there. So I met this professor by accident who was from SEMO and who encouraged me to come to SEMO. And he said, you will get a graduate assistantship and that will pay for your tuition and you will get some stipend too. So I was like, okay, but this is not a ranked school. Will I get a job after that? So he said, no, this is a regionally well-acclaimed school and you'll be fine. So I asked my dad, and he has just one single sentence of advice. And he said, son, you marry a person who loves you, not a person whom you love. So that made my decision very easy.
So you go to Cape.
Yes.
And there was a couple things it struck me when I came in the chamber for your swearing in this week. And one was the number of Cape Girardeau folks in the chamber. I know a lot of folks, being in Southeast Missouri myself from Cape. You had Peter Kinder, Judge Limbo, but tons of other business folks came up. That had to feel good about a place that you got to go and embrace, and they embraced you back.
Yes. My first impressions of Cape made me feel so much at home. And I always loved Cape. Even though after I went to University of Illinois for my law school, after I finished my MBA at Cape, I still came back to Cape. And eventually moved to St. Louis, but I always considered Cape my home. So every weekend or every 2-3 weekends, whenever I would have time, I would just go to Cape and stay with friends or just spend time there.
That's awesome. So I guess the governor, when he announced you, I guess maybe somewhere around here on this floor, you were going to be the state treasurer. He said it was the first person of color. And I'll be honest with you, I guess that just didn't strike me as something that stood out, or what. It wasn't as big a deal to me until I walked into the chamber for your swearing in before it started. I mean, there were so many folks, Indian Americans, that came, and they were so proud that you had received this honor, and you're being sworn into this high government office. It really didn't strike me as something significant until I walked in and saw folks there and the pride they had. That's got to make you feel good.
Absolutely. It was a matter of pride for, I would say, all Missourians, all Americans, especially the immigrants who have made this country their home, to see the significance of the moment. But I would say, definitely this was long overdue. But I would still say that I should not be just judged by the color of my skin, what Dr. King said so many years ago, but by the content of my character. I worked hard to get where I am. I established a solid practice with 4 attorneys and a staff of 23 across the nation, 3 different offices. So for somebody to come from that beginning and work hard, I think I just want to be an example and an inspiration for all Missouri kids that if you stay focused and if you have a vision in your head and if you work hard and get an education, you can make wonders.
Excuse me. I think, though, sometimes the Republican Party, sometimes by their own doing, and sometimes maybe the media, cast them as anti-immigrant. And I've found that in my business, the first advertiser for my first newspaper was a first-generation Mexican-American that moved here and started a restaurant. And my first advertiser. I found immigrants generally if you leave them alone, become Republicans. Hardworking people, taking advantage of their patriotic, sometimes very religious. I think there's a little bit of a missed opportunity amongst Republicans. Most folks that immigrate here are Republicans, even if they don't know it yet.
You're very right, Scott. Let's go back and see what conservative means and how these immigrants fit very much in that.
Yep.
Being a conservative means that you're a person of faith because you need to hold on to something.
Yep.
And your faith is something that you hold on to. Second, you're a family person. You're coming here alone, but you need that support around you. So they will always be very much family oriented. They're hardworking. They are not coming with all the gifts or some endowments to them. So they have to work hard. So they're hardworking folks. They know the value of the money, so they've saved money. They are big on saving money. So fiscally, they are very conservative. So you see all these traits. I do not understand how an immigrant who is coming to this country legally is not a conservative. It's just the narrative that has been around due to political reasons. When you say a word immigration, it always just connotes, oh, it's illegal across the border.
Yep.
That's not it. There is a legal immigration and it works. And as long as we promote that, as long as we fix what is wrong in our immigration system, I think you will see the fold of the tide of the immigrants into the Republican Party.
Now you're state treasurer, the job with a big portfolio, big staff. Tell me what you want to do with the office.
Well, as a treasurer, as I also said in my speech day before yesterday, the whole policy and the working of my office will be around 3 Ps. The first will be protect the taxpayers' money to get the best rate of return on the Missourian dollars. The second would be to promote the opportunities through the programs that the Treasurer's Office runs, which is the Most Scholars, Moable, Most, which is the 529 land, and the last MoBucks.
It's got to feel kind of nice that you get to be over a program that you just talked about showing children if you work hard, you can make it. Well, the state of Missouri has some ways to kind of give you a hand up and help you. And a lot of those programs run through your office.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the program, I was not aware of all the details, but as I got into the transition and learned about this program, I think I love the Treasurer's Office. This is a perfect fit. And I think I can do more in the Treasurer's Office than I could have done in any other public office.
Well, you know, you're inheriting an office. Sometimes you come in an office that's got some problems or something. You're getting a pretty good ship handed to you from Scott Fitzpatrick. I mean, the office is in a pretty good way.
Yeah, Scott has been great. I think his leadership in the office and the state has been wonderful. He has done great with some of the programs, especially rolling the Most Scholars program in a very short time. There were apprehensions whether this program will be successful or not, but so far we have seen only success. More than 1,000 kids enrolled in the Most Scholars program within the first 6 months. I would call that as a success. And Scott did a wonderful job doing that. So I feel very confident and happy stepping into
When you start to dig
role.
into Most Scholars, I found it interesting. In the state capitol, you have about 163 sometimes wannabe school board members in the House, right? Some of the Most Scholars money. I see the things that they criticize about public schools. Some of the schools that this Most Scholars money goes to, I think has some of the same problems as maybe on steroids. Do you have to, when you come in, I guess just due diligence, right? You're going to look through all these programs.
That's right.
I mean, you have a unique background, being an attorney. You come in and you could probably look at these things and size them up from a different angle, right?
That's just correct. So yesterday was my first day, so it'll take me some time.
So you haven't been through every program yet.
That's right. So it'll take me some time to sink in and then evaluate everything and maybe make things better, how we can deliver them to all the Missourian kids.
Question I got to ask you. I love this question. So, you know, everybody kind of knew after August there'd be a vacancy in the state treasurer's office. What's the process like? Do you reach out and call somebody? Do you have somebody call somebody? How do you look into something like that?
Well, I presented my interest by sending an email to the governor's office, and I got a call from Kyle Abushan that I would be scheduled for an interview, and that was a big surprise for me, and I was very pleased that I was shortlisted for an interview. I did not know how many candidates interviewed at that time, but somebody told me that there were probably 9 candidates in total, which brought down to 6 or somebody. But later in the process, I was told that I was among the top 3 finalists. And then I just got a call from the governor
So
2
tell
days
me,
before.
where you at? When does the call come? What's going on when you get that call?
I was coming from the commencement ceremony from Cape Girardeau. I was driving back home after doing the graduation ceremony, and we have Senator Roy Blunt there for that event, and he spoke very nicely, and we were very thrilled that he came. And I was just driving back from Cape to St. Louis on my way back to home.
What a kind of poignant situation. You're leaving a speech by the man that just embodies Missouri statesmanship, and you get a call to serve the state in the executive branch that he served in. That's awesome. Does the call come from the governor? I mean, are you surprised? And you tell your family? I mean, are they like, who would have thought? I mean, a person like yourself who did not serve in office before, who didn't serve in, like Andrew Bailey wasn't elected, but he was in the governor's office.
Right.
Were folks surprised? What was it like calling and telling your family?
I first of all awestruck, and I did not have words to thank the governor because he was in Branson, and I did not know what to say when he said that. So it took me at least a minute to compose myself, and I stopped the car on the side, and then I said, "Can I just take 10 seconds?" And then I spoke to him and I thanked him, and then I called my family. I did not call. I called my family that I will be home in next 30 minutes, and then I broke that news to them. But it was surreal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your success. Best of luck in the state treasurer's office. And we hope as you dig into these programs and as you start running for election, you'll come talk about it here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott.
We'll be right back with our opinion maker panel. Cameron Parker Bunning comes on, first time on the show, and old Peter Meredith will probably tell us all things we've done wrong after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics from the state capital in Jeff City. We are joined now by Representative Jeff Knight. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
From the Boot Heel, Cameron Parker Bunning. Thank you so much for joining us. First time on the show.
Yes.
LaKeySha Bosley, old St. Louis pro family, old pro of the show now.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming back.
Well, thank you for having me.
And
Scott.
Peter Meredith, I figure you'll give us a detailed critique of everything we've done wrong since your last appearance.
If you let me.
Tell me about this. You're going to take I-70 home today, right?
I am, yeah.
Governor's got some ideas. I like the fact, to me, you take a project like expanding I-70, it's so huge
Oh, yeah.
that it's like it's easy to just say, well, it's so much, we're going to do it later. He actually started breaking this up and said, where's the three problems? And I drive I-70 quite a bit myself. Those are three problems.
Oh, no question. And honestly, I mean, that's the kind of infrastructure we're desperate to improve.
Yeah.
You saw widespread support in the chamber. Everyone stood up. I didn't, I'll be honest. I want to take my time looking at what the plan is. And I think there's some
You
other
would
good...
be the fly on the
Well,
ointment.
there's some other good plans out there that might actually address the entirety of I-70 using more federal dollars and leverage our money a little better. So I'm just curious to see what all the options are.
The representative from EO weighed in, but now seriously, I do think it's easy in government to say the problem's too big, we'll just put it off. I liked how the governor said, yes, we don't have money to do this whole thing, nobody does. But we do have some money to start with the major problem areas. I thought that was a very common sense, rural Missouri way to approach it.
A classic example is the Capitol. Look what it cost to reface the outside of the Capitol because we hadn't done anything for years. So whenever you break down a project like that, between our two biggest populations in the state, it's necessary, I think, especially to draw new business and industry into the area.
LaKeySha Bosley, let's say the plan is your typical MoDOT plan, but you pick these, and I have to say, if you ever drove that Columbia intersection, good Lord, I'm sure they had engineering degrees when they did it, but I'm not sure where from. It is just a nightmare. And Wentzville, it is a major problem. If you drive through there, that's where traffic stops. It'll stop other places, but it always stops there. I like the thought of doing those three spots.
I mean, it's going to connect a lot more people, and it's going to allow us to expand as far as businesses, as far as homeowners. It's going to expand of all of those things. So regardless of what the spots are, I'm excited that we're actually doing it now, because this is something that a lot of people have wanted for such a long time. I'm just grateful that we're here now. Let's get it done.
If you come up here, everybody in the world's got a magic plan for things. Most of the magic plans are hogwash. I thought a pragmatic approach to transportation funding. The governor stepped up a couple years and said, look, if you want more roads, you have to have more money. No, there's none of this silly 8 double bank shots. Real life is real life. He was honest. Now might be a good way to spend it.
I agree. I mean, I-70 is it's a battlefield when I go home.
Oh,
it
man.
is tough. But also, he's talked about the 1,700 miles of low volume roads that he's talking about, and his bridges. I think he's completed 222 out of 250. In our area, that's what we have to have, the low volume roads also, and the bridges.
We can always take the Todd Richardson Expressway through Bunker. They're on 72 through the hills.
I take that often as well. I go home that way, I come up on 55 and 70. So.
Jeff, not you're a businessman and a former educator.
Yep.
I think it's I know right now everybody wants to create a problem with schools, right? But teachers and schools are no different than any other industry. You're having to pay more for employees right now. That's a fact. I think it's nice that policymakers, instead of just complaining and putting stuff on Facebook, say, yes, you have to pay more for employees, including teachers. Of course you do, right?
You do. I think it's kind of a slippery slope whenever you have the local dollars that it will require. Initially, there's no question teachers need to make more money. I was a teacher. My daughter's currently a teacher. Every niece and nephew in my family is in education. But whenever we influx that money in the beginning to get that raise, we have to make sure, especially some of these rural districts where I'm at, can afford it in the future. Whenever their assessed valuation is ag land, it's a concern of mine that they can keep it up after we give that initial money to them to get the raise.
It's a little bit of a sugar high.
Yeah.
I would think that with that many teachers in his family, Knight would be a little smarter. But seriously, back home, you go to a rural town, you have the implement store, you have a gas station /restaurant, and you have a school. And ag had to fight for 3 years just to get back to even, which funds that implement dealership. Now you get some St. Louis geniuses that want to mess with schools. That up in that teacher pay will help places like Risco and Clarkton, real folks.
It will. I'm kind of the same with Representative Knight. My mom, aunts, sister, everybody in my entire family are teachers. And so, they need more money, but starting high and then decreasing down is not necessarily the way. But yeah, and some of those places you talked about in rural Missouri, the school is the only employer, the biggest employer and the only employer. So,
LaKeySha, I have no educators in my family, and it probably shows. But I do like it when Republicans are serious. Mm-hmm. They have the majority. They have all the executive offices. Sometimes they're a little less than serious. I like when folks say, no, you can't do more with less. You do less with less. Mm-hmm. If you want to do more, you have to have more.
Mm-hmm. Look, we're at a position and a place right now where we have more money than we've ever had. So let us pay our teachers what they deserve. In the art of negotiation, they always tell you to start high and aim somewhere in the middle for where you want to be. And I think, when we're talking about our teachers, we shouldn't be negotiating whether to pay them more. It just should be a no-brainer. We should absolutely be giving them exactly what they deserve.
Oh, Peter, it's interesting to me. Should this be something the school boards get to decide, right?
To a degree, but I think part of the problem we've got in this state is we've got the lowest state funding for schools of any state in the country, and therefore the lowest paid teachers in the country. Mm-hmm. Now, if we want to actually address that, I think Representative Knight's right. We can't just rely on local funding for that. We have to pony up. Right now, we've got billions of dollars we're sitting on. This governor's proposal, it's good. It invests more in teachers and education, but honestly, it's a drop in the bucket. To raise every teacher's pay by $1,000, it's about $80 million. Which means we need to spend close to $1 billion if we want to raise every teacher's pay by $10,000, which is probably the bare minimum just to keep up with inflation, let alone catch them up to where they ought to be in the economy.
But I watch you on the budget committee. This is not that the state is doing so well. They banked $4 billion. This is some money from Washington that borrowed from China to send here. You can't a salary is something that's going to stay the same, right? You can't cut a teacher's pay. So you're taking one-time money for something you have to do every year.
Well, some of it's one-time money, and that's where we talk about the infrastructure projects. We've got Biden bucks to thank for the I-70 conversation, right? But some of the money is actually a change in the economy, and it's a result of inflation. But what we have to realize is that's not money we can just give back or get rid of. That's money we have to reinvest in all the things that also go up with inflation. All the costs of government go up just like the costs of regular people. We have to pay people more. We have to pay more for roads and bridges. We got to pay more for school supplies. All the costs have to go up right with inflation.
Give me something you didn't like from the speech.
There wasn't a lot. You know, I do think I got a little frustrated when the governor talked about the shooting at the school in my district. He spoke really well about it, but then he basically said, there's nothing we can do to stop these shootings from happening, so let's just focus on making sure we can respond as well as they did after people die. I have to believe we can address some of the root causes of violence a little better,
Well, let's get to the
and
point.
that we can address some common sense gun laws.
You're talking about gun control, right?
Some common sense gun laws.
Do you think it's honestly possible? If Mike Parson came out in a State of the State and said, we are going to do some sensible gun control, would that have a chance of even getting to a vote in the chambers?
You know, it's a long shot, but I'll say in Florida, a Republican governor and a Republican legislature, Governor Rick Scott, who's pretty popular among Republicans here, passed the exact bill that I filed for extreme risk protection orders. That would have come into play in this shooting. I have to believe that if folks hear the personal stories of these kids and these parents and these teachers about what happened, that maybe like in Florida, they could agree to something bipartisan.
Jeff Knight, the governor comes out, says this, all the things he just said happen. That bill has any chance of passing the House or the Senate?
You get into the gun law deal in our chamber, it does get a little extreme
They'd
sometimes.
probably pass another gun. 3-year-olds can buy Uzis now.
And let me preface this by saying, I'm an FFL dealer. So we do the background checks, we do everything through our auctions. The fact that you can turn 18 years old and have the ability and those juvenile records not ever been looked at. Part of my teaching also the last 11 years, I was in a juvenile detention facility. You know, does those records have to be sealed in order for that person to obtain one?
Well, I mean, it's generally juveniles that do school shootings, right?
But, you know, in my district, I have a local sheriff, retired policeman. They've just hired in 2 different schools retired highway patrolmen for their school resource officers. And I think we're going to have to look at funding for that kind of training, because if you can get highway patrol and retired law enforcement that's just supplementing their retirement, and if we can get those people trained, 2 trained teachers, I think school safety, I think we should have some influx of money in that training for the school resource officers outside of police departments. You take those retired people and you can supplement their retirement if we just had the proper training for them to get into schools. And that's something my sheriff and highway patrol guys are working on in my district.
Give me something you liked about the speech.
I liked one of the things I liked is that he mentioned Kennett, Missouri, which is I know that's a little bit. He knows where that's at. The governor knows where that's at, and I like that. So
give me something you didn't like.
I didn't like the fact that we didn't expound more on the infant and maternal mortality piece. I'm grateful for the conversation being had and investing in that, but we have to expand beyond Show Me Healthy Babies. We've got to go directly into doula training and doula education, and allowing doulas to also be a part of that Medicaid package, because we're now seeing a lot more birthing people go out into the world, and mothers say, I would like a doula to be by my side, because as a doctor, their focus is on baby and making sure that baby gets out healthy, whereas doula makes sure that mom is calm, and it's a more holistic approach. So I would like to see more of that, because we've seen it happen across the country, that when you have somebody else in the room who knows what's going on, it limits the possibilities of having maternal morbidity of the live births.
We can't go without talking about the House rules that were passed. You had some thoughts?
I mean, look, I think everybody has the right, to Jeff's point, we have all the right to bear arms, so why not allow us to show our arms off, you know?
He wants gun control, arms control, so I mean, it's...
See, my thing is I'm a little indifferent on that. I think instead of allowing us to talk about guns and doing gun laws and gun control, we need to attack the ammunition. If it's easier and less accessible for us to have ammo, we wouldn't have a situation that we had with Central, where he had over 200 plus rounds that, I mean, that's unheard of. Like, if you're not in the business of testing these things out. So
I can spot good politics.
I mean, hey.
And I thought the House Rules debate was very good politics by your caucus.
It was not. From our caucus, absolutely.
When I look up and see CNN, and that's what's on the background of the office, and I hear Ashley Honey talking, I'm like, whoa, I know that person. Good politics, right?
Very good.
Sure. I wouldn't say it was intended that way. Look, we sat and talked with Republican leadership and said, you don't want to have this fight. you really don't want this to go this direction. And they did it anyway, and what happened was no surprise, I guess.
Gemini, it just seems to me like Dean Blocker, an adult, successful person, reasonable. If he thinks you're so inappropriately dressed that he will address it himself, I bet you the minority party would agree with whatever if it's that bad, something tells me it's probably going to be bad enough you're going to collectively want it addressed. If it's not, I don't see him just diving in on this.
As short as I can be with this answer, I agree with you 100%, and my wife specifically ordered me not to discuss fashion in the chamber. So I agree with your
If
statement.
Miss Amy put her foot down, we're going to go to Who Won the Week and wrap the show up. Who won the week, Pete?
I'll give it to Governor Parson. You know, he gave a great State of the State where he didn't talk about a single one of the hot button divisive cultural issues and instead talked about investing in our state in ways we all can agree on.
Who won the week?
I would have to say Missouri women. The fact that Senator McCreary and Senator Gannon had their bill hearing of maternal mortality, of increasing from the year, not a year, for 3 months to a year for postpartum coverage and care. I would have to say Missouri women and Senator Elaine Gannon and Senator McCreary.
Senator McCreary's going to be good, isn't she?
She's going to be amazing.
Who won the week?
I say Vivek Malek, the new treasurer, the true American dream.
He's just
Great
such
guy.
a nice
He
person.
is.
I
Good
mean,
guy.
whatever your politics or thoughts, you meet him, you're just like, what a great guy. I kind of want to support this guy. Whatever he's working on, seems probably going to be good. Who won the week?
No question. I think just the fact that this gentleman survived another year is phenomenal. So happy birthday to you, Scott Faughn. I think you got it.
Happy birthday.
I thought you were going to say Mike
Well
Searboy.
played.
I'm like, well, yeah, it is.
Happy birthday.
I'm going to say Lyndall Fraker. Good Southwest Missouri guy. Served the state in the House. Created the state's medical marijuana program. He's going home to work for his family business. Lyndall Fraker's a guy who left the state better than he found it. We'll see you next week here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and Sterling Bank.
I'm a history buff, like I know a lot of you are if you watch the show. We're doing a thing of the history of Missouri. We're going to do it one county at a time. We call it Show Me Missouri. We're going to travel to all 114 counties of the state. We'll have a member of the Farm Bureau, county elected officials, some of your state legislators you see here on the show. We're going to talk about the history, what's happening now in the county, and how the two are interconnected. It's a passion project of mine. If you like history, I hope you'll get involved. Follow us, go to MissouriTimes.com. You can see it. We'll probably branch it off into its own social media at some point. But you've been so good to us at the Missouri Times, the show, different papers. This is a passion project that I hope you'll enjoy. It's called Show Me Missouri, the history of Missouri, one county at a time. The first county was Polk County. We had a great time. And we hope you'll go to MissouriTimes.com, find a little bit about it. And if you like the history of the state, I hope you'll enjoy it.